Hello friends, welcome to Hybridacademy and to the next session of Learn Adobe Photoshop for Beginners. In this session, we'll learn about image correction and adjustments. And trust me, this is the most important part of Adobe Photoshop because this is what we do in Photoshop. We correct the images and we adjust the images to make them look better. Let's review the course agenda for this session. In this session, that is image correction and adjustments, we'll first of all learn about adjusting black and white levels. Then we'll learn to remove color tints, and we'll also learn adjusting the tone and contrast of a picture. Now let's quickly start with our session, that is image corrections and adjustments. Image correction is all about improving a picture by adjusting, tweaking and balancing a series of colors found in raw image file or photo to make it appear natural and unfiltered. Adjustment layers give a greater control and flexibility over image edits than direct adjustments. You can make non-destructive adjustments to the colors and tones in your image and keep editing the adjustment layers without permanently changing the pixels in the image. Moving further, let's see how to adjust the black and white levels. We use the levels adjustment to correct the tonal range and color balance of an image by adjusting the intensity levels of image shadows, midtones and highlights. The levels histogram is a visual guide for adjusting the key image tones. Adjust tonal range using levels. The outer two input level sliders map the black point and white point to the settings of output sliders. By default, the output sliders are at level 0 where the pixels are black and level 255 where the pixels are white. With the output slider in the default positions, moving the black input slider map the pixel value to level 0 and moving the white point maps the pixel value to level 255. The remaining levels are distributed between the levels 0 and 255. This redistribution increases the tonal range of the image, in effect increasing the overall contrast of the image. On the right hand side in the image you can see there is a histogram, and just below the histogram there is a slider which shows the output levels. Now the extreme left of this shows the dark part or the black part and is represented by 0. The extreme right part shows the white part or the highlights and is represented as 255. Moving these sliders towards inside will vary the shadow and the highlight section and will bring the picture closer to the midtones, increasing the contrast of the picture. Let's see how we do this in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, we can adjust the black and white levels using two different ways. One is by using levels directly on the image on which we want to work. For example, on this particular image, if you wish to apply the levels directly, we'll go to Image, we'll select Adjustments, and we'll select the second option which says Levels. The shortcut for this is Ctrl plus L in case of Windows and Command plus L in case of Mac. So we can also press Ctrl L. Now once we press this, you can see this dialog box opens up. In this, this horizontal bar is the output levels. We can adjust these pointers of this output levels to make changes to the same image. The first pointer shows the black or the shadows. So if we slide it towards the center, this will actually increase the black part of the image or the shadows of the image, and you can see the image is becoming darker. Similarly, the right pointer, the extreme right pointer, shows the white part or the highlights of this image, and if we reduce it towards the center, this will increase the whites of this image or the highlights of this image. So adjusting both of these indirectly adjusts the black and white of this image, giving more contrast to this image. And now if I remove this preview button, you can see how much difference this makes to the original image. But there is one drawback of this, that once I click on OK, this change will directly be applied on this image, and once this is saved or rasterized, this cannot be reverted back. Whereas I'm moving this back using the history layer, I'm going back to the original level. Whereas by using the second method will not disturb or will not make any changes to the original image, but will add on something on this image which will add the same levels as we did earlier. So for that, instead of clicking on new layer, just 2 buttons before that we have an option which says create new fill or adjustment layer. So this is actually a new layer, but only for the adjustment to the existing layer which is selected. So right now I've selected the image layer which is layer 0, and I've clicked on this, which is a fourth icon from the left hand side which says create new fill or adjustment layer, and from this we'll select the options of levels. This levels is same as we did before, but this will not be directly applied on the original image or original layer. Now you can see the same dialog box appears, and now again I can set the black levels and the white levels, giving the same output as it was earlier. You can see, but this is not disturbing the original image. I can go to layers, and now you can see a new layer which is the adjustment layer is added above this layer, and this is only affecting the layer which I selected. And if I remove this layer, this is actually the original image. So I have not made any changes to the original image, but have made the adjustments using the adjustment layer. And now you can see this image is a more bright, a more contrastful, and is giving a better look as compared to the original image, which is a bit dull. So this is the use of levels in Photoshop, and this can be applied to any image, and every time it gives a very good look to every image. It pops out the complete contrast and the picture looks really good. Moving further, let's see how to remove color tint from a picture. Now this color tint is a sort of shade which at times applies on an image due to different kind of lighting or different kind of light effects which are there at the time of clicking the picture. Suppose you are clicking a picture in the tungsten bulb light, so it will give you some yellow or warm look, and suppose you click a picture in bright daylight or in the evening, it might give you some blue kind of effect which is a blue tint. So there is a way in Photoshop using which we can remove the color tint. So we call this a selective color. So selective color is a photo editing process that highlights one color or a colored object in an otherwise black and white image. This makes the selected color pop or fade. We may use this process for artistic reasons, or when the image includes many competing colors, we can highlight one color or desaturate the other. We can also use this technique to bring out a subtle color that otherwise would be lost in the image. Adobe Photoshop has a tool called Selective Color. This tool allows you to change the color in the image but will not highlight color in a black and white image. This is really powerful tool for changing individual colors. This option is available under the image menu as Image, Adjustment and Selective Color. So on the right hand side image you can see there is an option of colors, and if we open that, it shows you some basic colors which are like red, yellow, green, cyan, blues, magenta, whites, neutrals and blacks. Now after selecting this color, we can adjust different levels of cyan, magenta, yellow and black, which is the CMYK format. And once we adjust this, that particular color either gets highlighted or gets fade out. Let's see how to do this in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, if you see, this image has been clicked in a tungsten light, a yellow light, and it gives a lot of yellow effect on this image. Now to reduce this yellow effect from this picture, we will use this selective color. And as we discussed, we will go to Image, we'll go to Adjustments, and in adjustments we'll find the option of selective color. Now this is not having any shortcuts, so this is the only way to open this. We'll go to selective color, we'll click on this, and this will open up this dialog box. Now similar to the levels which we learned just now, this also has the option of adjusting the yellow color using the adjustment layer. So we'll click on this and we'll click on selective color. Just similar to the dialog box, this also shows you the list of colors which can be adjusted, and it again shows you CMYK to adjust the selected color. So right now, since we want to reduce the yellow color, we'll select yellow, and to turn this yellow into white or a lighter shade, we'll adjust these 4 sliders. So we'll increase the cyan, we'll reduce the magenta, we'll reduce the yellow, and we can either reduce or increase the black based on our requirement. Now this yellow also contains some part of red, so we'll also adjust the red. We'll again increase the cyan, we'll reduce the magenta or maybe increase it, and we'll reduce the yellow. Now you can see this picture is a lot more white as compared to the original one. And once we come back to the layers, you can check this by toggling the adjustment layer. So you can see that it turned white from a completely yellow layer. So this is the use of selective color, where a particular color can either be saturated or desaturated, or can be highlighted or can be reduced in a particular image. Now, moving further, let's see how we can adjust the tone and contrast of an image. Now, once we are familiar with the levels, this is just a quick fix to brighten up the dull and dim pictures, or to fine-tune the picture correctly, we need to give it some more mid-tones. The example below shows 2 pictures. The one on the left is the original picture, and the one on the right has the adjusted levels. As we can see, the picture on the right is becoming more clearer, but what we are looking here is the altered mid-tones. So to adjust the mid-tones, we use curves in Adobe Photoshop. Understanding curves is very simple. We have a horizontal axis and a vertical axis. The horizontal axis represents the input levels, and this is the original color of the picture. The vertical axis is the output levels, and these are the ones which we edit. Initially in the curves dialog box, we have a straight line. So to alter the mid-tones in the picture, we must alter that straight line. The more we make it into an S shape, the more darker it results of mid-tones we receive. Now in the picture on the right hand side, you can see the horizontal axis, which is at the bottom, which starts from black and ends in white, is known as the input tones. The vertical axis, which again starts from black and ends in white, is known as the output tones. The top right corner of the graph is known as the white point, and the bottom left corner of the graph is known as the black point. The middle point between the straight line is known as the mid-tones, and this is the point which we need to adjust. And again, the middle point between the mid-tone and the white point is known as the highlights, and the middle point between the mid-tone and the black point is known as the shadows. So we will be adjusting the highlights and the shadows so that the mid-tones, they get highlighted and are darker to give a better representation to our picture. Now let's see how to use curves in Adobe Photoshop. Now if you wish to apply the curve directly on the image, again the process is the same. We will go to image, go to adjustment, and in this we'll get the option of curves. The shortcut for this in Windows is Ctrl+M, and the shortcut for this in Mac is Command+M. So if we select this curve, these options which we alter in this particular dialog box will directly be applied to the image. Whereas if you do not wish to disturb the image and create an adjustment layer, just like we did in case of levels, that is also possible. So for that, we'll click on the create new adjustment layers button, and from here we will select curves. Again the same dialog box appears, but this time it's the new adjustment layer above the selected layer, and from the properties we can change the curves which we want. Now here we have some presets available, and by default the default preset is selected. Now we can change this as per our requirement. You can see there are a lot of grays in this, and if I wish to change this picture to a bit dark contrast or a dark picture, I can select darker. So you can see there is a slight change in the picture. If I want to increase the contrast, that is also possible. From the preset, I can click on increase contrast, and you can see the contrast increased and the highlights or the whites got brighter. Similarly, we have a lighter shade available. We have linear contrast, we have medium contrast, we have negative, we have strong contrast. So these are all options available. We also have other options like color negative. We have options like cross process. So these all options are available, and of course at any time we can also create our custom curve. So I can click on custom, and then we can adjust these small points in the image as per our requirement. So whatever we make it, that will show the difference in the image. You can see how much contrast is now visible on the image, and you can go to layers, and you can see by hiding this layer, this was the original picture, and by applying the adjustment layer we have increased the contrast of this picture. So this is how the curves work. So with this we come to the end of lesson 5 part 1, that is the image corrections and adjustment. And in this session we learned how to adjust the black and white levels, how to remove the color tints, and we also learned about adjusting the tone and contrast of a picture. Going further in the next session, that is the part 2 of lesson 5, image corrections and adjustment, we will learn how to make colors more vivid. We will also learn to adjust the colors like black and white and sepia, etc. And we will learn to blur and sharpen images, and finally how to brighten images. Thank you for joining the complete session. Hope you like the content. Please share and subscribe our channel so that your friends also get benefited with the information, acquire free knowledge and learn new things. We are eagerly looking forward to your support. Thanks, take care and stay safe. Hope to see you in the next session.